lot of the thoughts that are shared today. And as you probably are likely seeing on your screen, we're also being live screened. Thank you to the City of Salem and their technologies for making sure we share this information and get a lot of people able to watch this after the fact. And for those of you who have been able to come on and join us today, we certainly appreciate that very much. Before we jump into our agenda, I wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping for our group today. First of all, I'd like to thank my counterpart, Eric Anderson at SEDCOR, for mobilizing his membership. And Eric has done a great job in gridding parts of his organization in participation today. I'd also like to thank Zachary Zalicki on our Salem Chamber staff, who brought forward the Salem Chamber membership, who have also a number of representatives. The great part about two organizations such as the Salem Chamber and SEDCOR is we have a lot of overlap in our membership and very similar important missions, albeit a little bit different on the localization and where those efforts occur. We have great participation from our city staff, and full credit to the city staff for coming forward with the idea of hosting this joint session. I always think of how these type of meetings are put together, and I'd like to thank the leadership of Steve Powers in the city manager's office, as well as Mayor Bennett, for having the forethought of how we bring together many different individuals from a unique part of our community, that is the business community. Today, Patricia and Eunice and Annie will largely lead our efforts. I'd like to thank each of them. And Annie has really run point on making sure this meeting is put together. So thank you, Annie Gorski, for that. And Eunice and Patricia, we know the skills that you bring to both the Our Salem project as well as the Climate Action Plan. And we're looking forward to you each respectfully leading us through those two sessions. As we begin, we'd like to understand who has joined us today on this call. We know that two important members that I will officially introduce right now are City Councilor Tom Anderson, who represents the residents of Ward 2, and City Councilor Jose Gonzalez, who represents the residents of Ward 5, are both participants and on the committee, serving on the committee for the Climate Action Task Force. Myself, Mike Erdman, and a number of others of you are also serving on that task force in official capacity. So you will likely see us jotting quite a few notes and really understanding the communication that the business community is sharing with the city. Our purpose today is to make sure to hear your thoughts. As a business community, we all are pulling for Salem to have a very healthy future. And it's also important that all of our residents, those customers that we serve, also know that they have a voice in this. And so credit to the city for coming to the business community specifically today, but to bring the whole cross section of Salem to the table to make sure to share our thoughts on where our community heads into the near future. We know how much the importance of a sound economic foundation in our city, how important that is so our whole community may thrive. And organizations like the Salem Chamber and SEDCOR, our missional work is to make sure the economic foundation in our region is secure. So paychecks are had, so jobs are being met, and families are able to love and enjoy being and raising their families in this community. With that, I'm going to go through a series of introductions. If we could, I would like to call your name if you'd let us know the organization and business you're with. And should you be on the Climate Action Task Force, if you would please indicate that you're a serving member. Let's start with Robert Chandler.
Hi, I'm Robert Chandler. I'm the Assistant Public Works Director, and I am deeply involved in climate action planning, including I attend the part of the task force.
Thank you, Robert. Anthony Gamallo.
Good morning. My name is Anthony Gamallo, Senior Transportation Planner for Salem Public Works, and I'm here assisting.
Thank you, Anthony. And I will say on the forefront, if I have not met you before, please pardon me if I butcher your name. I've grown up an entire life being called Tom Hoffert, and I'm comfortable in that space, although it's Tom Hoffert. So know that if I accidentally butcher your name, I wear that every day too. So let's go to Tori Banford.
Hello, Tori Banford with Urban Development Department, and I help out with the Climate Action Plan.
Thank you, Tori. Mr. Connor Wrighton.
Good morning, Connor Wrighton. I'm the Community and Government Affairs Manager for Northwest Natural in the Mid-Willamette Valley.
Thank you, Connor. Spencer Todd.
How you doing? I'm Spencer Todd. I'm a criminal defense attorney in town, just hanging out and trying to get smarter about the world here.
Jordan Truitt.
Good morning, everyone. Jordan Truitt, and with First Commercial Real Estate Services here in Salem.
Jeff Miller.
Good morning, everyone. Jeff Miller, Coldwell Banker Commercial, also one of the board members for the Salem Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Director Miller. I have on my screen Wildwood, but I see two individuals. Would you please both introduce yourselves?
I'm John Miller, president of Wildwood Mahonia. We've been doing green development for 40 years in Salem, and I serve on the governor's natural resource cabinet and chair of the Oregon Sustainability Board. And Deb Cozy will introduce herself.
Hi there, I'm Deb Cozy. I've worked for John for about 10 years. I'm just really interested to see what's going to be happening with Salem.
Deb and John, thank you for joining us. Lyman Fisk.
Hello, everyone. Lyman Fisk with LS Networks. I'm the customer account manager for the company and glad to be here catching up with all of you today. Thanks.
Mr. Mike Erdman.
Good morning, Mike Erdman, CEO of the Home Builders Association of Marion and Polk Counties, and I serve on the Climate Action Task Force.
Mr. Eric Anderson.
Good morning, Tom. Eric Anderson with SEDCOR, the Strategic Economic Development Corporation. We cover Marion, Polk, and Yamhill counties and work very closely with the city of Salem on economic development here in the city, and you'll hear more about that in a couple minutes.
Austin Ross.
Hi, everybody. My name is Austin Ross. I'm a long-range planner with the city of Salem, just helping out today.
Thanks, Austin. Seth Leonards.
Hi, Seth Leonards, City of Salem in the Urban Development Department. And yeah, I'll also just be helping the facilitated portion of the meeting.
President Laura Dorn.
Hi, Laura Dorn, Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate Professionals and current president of the Chamber Board.
Past President Kathy Gordon.
Good morning, Kathy Gordon with Aldrich CPAs and Advisors and past president of the Salem Chamber.
Julie Warnicki.
Hi, Julie Warnicki, Transportation Planning Manager for the City of Salem, and I am also participating on the Climate Action Plan Task Force.
Thanks, Julie. Director Rutherford.
There we go. Hey, Kristen Rutherford, Urban Development Director for the City of Salem, and just listening into the conversation.
Thank you, Director. John Eld.
John Eld, Project Manager with Bonaventure Senior Housing.
Great to have you on, John. Marie Fiddler.
Oh.
Marie, we did not catch your audio. Would you like to give it one more go? Okay, we must be having, I would never want to speak for Marie Fiddler, but we'll just say Umpqua Bank, and if I'm not mistaken, Marie, and great to have you on here. Director Castro Monroy.
Hey, everyone. Jonathan Castro with Castro Monroy Group and Director with the Chamber of Commerce.
Harvey Gale.
Yes, Harvey Gale with Spire Management. We do association management. I'm on the call because one of my clients is interested in climate action plans in communities, especially proposed gas bans, items like that.
Former Senator Denise Bowles.
Good morning. We've been doing these for over a year. I don't know why my video is not working, but happy to be here and with Salem Health, just listening to the conversation. Thanks.
Thanks, Denise. Carol Long.
Good morning. I'm Provost and Senior Vice President at Willamette University, help with our sustainability efforts, and I'm very interested in the work of this group.
Thank you, Carol. Trevor Smith.
Hello, I'm Trevor Smith. I'm a City of Salem Public Information Officer for the Public Works Department, and I'm just here to listen, and thanks for letting me participate.
Rob Romanek.
Hello, everyone. I work with Patricia and Robert at the City of Salem Public Works Department. I'm assisting Patricia with the Climate Action Plan. Nice to meet you all.
Katie Kostick.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Katie Kostick with AC and Company Architecture.
And Katie, I just renamed you on the screen. I hope you're okay with that. I know you're on your cell phone.
Thank you.
Director Heron.
Mike Heron with Vips Industries and board member of Salem Chamber.
And pardon me, it says Craig K, but I do not have a last name. Okay, we'll pass over Craig. Councilman Jose Gonzalez.
Good morning, everybody. I'll be on my video soon, but on the Climate Action Task Force and your city councilor for Ward 5. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Councilor. Eric at Olson Communities.
Yes, Eric Olson with Olson Design Development, developer here in Salem.
Great to have you on, Eric. And pardon me, my screen reset a little bit. So we've all gone through these. I'm hoping I'm not missing one. I have just named Ryan, no last name, Ryan in lowercase.
Ryan Bladel with Trademark Enterprises and Bladel Custom Homes, home builder, land developer.
Great to see you, Ryan. Thanks for being on the call. Beth Rhodes.
Hi, and the car, Beth Rhodes, CNR Design Remodel, residential remodeler.
And Distinguished Service Award winner. Great to see you, Beth. Joel Blount.
Good morning, Joel Blount, Cadell Morrison Wealth Management, Investment Advisor and Portfolio Manager. Just here to listen to the call. Thanks.
Okay, according to my screen, I have gotten through most, with the exception of our main speakers and drivers, which will be Annie, Patricia, and Eunice. If I forgot you or did not get to you, my apologies, but we are going to move forward into our agenda. And Annie, I'm going to turn it over to you to discuss city goals and what we will experience today throughout this call.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. We're going to share some presentations with you, an update on the Our Salem project, as well as an overview of the Climate Action Plan. Then we have a short poll for you. Eric and I are going to highlight, Eric from SEDCOR, some existing programs and partnerships that we think could be considered, or maybe there may be alignment with the Climate Action Plan. So we want you to know about that before we break into groups for discussion. We'll take a short poll, and then we will have 4 breakout groups, and there'll be an opportunity for everyone to share feedback on the strategies and the polling, and we'll talk about what's next. So I think I will turn it over to Eunice to start on the Our Salem project.
Great, thanks, Annie. Hi, everyone. I'm Eunice Kim. I'm the Long Range Planning Manager for the City of Salem and a task force member. I'm here today just to have a quick overview of where we are with the Our Salem project and how it kind of overlaps with the Climate Action Plan. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. Okay, great. Thanks, Tom. So the Our Salem project is a multi-year project we've been working on to update our comprehensive plan. This is the high-level goals, policies map that really will guide how we grow and develop in the next 10, 20, 30 years. It really touches and influences everything from where different types of housing, where different types of businesses are located and encouraged in the Salem area, to our priorities for the transportation system and natural resources. So there's a lot of natural overlap, again, with the Climate Action Plan. Back in March, we brought kind of high-level goals and a map in a vision document to the City Council to ask for their acceptance to continue working on the project. They did accept the vision, and so we've been working since March on all the details of the policies, the zoning map, the zoning code, regulations, and so I'm just going to give a brief update of kind of where we are with those. So we've been working on the draft policies, revising policies and updating policies, adding policies this spring. And I just want to give a few examples of some of the policies that really do align with the climate action plan work and strategies that Patricia's leading. We have draft policies around concentrating growth and development, mixed use development along our transit routes, along our frequent transit routes. For example, to again, encourage people to live, work, and be able to take transit more easily and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We have a draft policy around encouraging green building to again, address greenhouse gas emissions, but also energy needs and health of residents. We have policies around resiliency and access to fresh food. So the climate action plan focuses not just on reducing greenhouse gases, but also how can we make the community more resilient in the face of climate change and other disasters. And so we have one, how can we encourage kind of greater access in the community to local food? And then one on tree canopy. We have a lot of draft policies around trees, but just making sure that we can increase and support efforts to increase our tree canopy and our distribution of trees across the community. That's just a quick sampling of some of the policies that overlap with the climate action plan. We're in the process right now of revising again and updating those based on all the input we've received across the community, and hope to have those ready to present back to the community in September. Another major portion of the Our Salem project is the zoning map. So this is kind of what actually regulates how you can use your land and what development could look like across the city. We released a proposed zoning map back in April and received a lot of comments. We had an interactive map with over 1,500 comments, a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, people still kind of giving input through that process. And we hope to have a revised zoning map out to the community by early September. When that map is out, I just want to stress that none of it will be final. We're still in the community outreach phase. And our next step is really to bring all of that information, the draft goals, the policies, the map, the code language, to the City Council and Planning Commission for a work session in October. We then hope to start the adoption process, the formal adoption process, by the end of the year. That process will include public hearings at the Planning Commission and the City Council, so nothing will be final and effective until we go through that process. After the Our Salem project, there's a lot of additional work that will happen. An update to the transportation system plan, the comprehensive park system master plan, to really align those plans with the work that's happened in the Our Salem project. We plan to conduct a new economic opportunities analysis, understanding that there are concerns and questions around kind of future needs for land for economic, for employment. And then of course, working with city departments across Salem and the community to actually implement the climate action plan. So while the Our Salem project is a multi-year project, there's a lot of work that will follow in terms of making sure that other plans align with this work and that we support the climate action plan. Here's my name and number and the project website. You can find a lot of information there. Feel free to call me and email me anytime. Thanks.
Okay, I believe we will now shift over to Patricia to give us an overview of the climate action plan.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for having me. Can you see my screen okay? Okay, great. Yeah, so Patricia Farrell, I'm the Climate Action Plan Manager for the City of Salem, and Rob Romanek is the Assistant Manager. We've been working closely with Eunice and Annie on this project, and I'm here to present it to you today. What happened here? Start at the beginning. Okay. So City Council set 2 goals last year in October. One of them is to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2035. And the second goal is to become a carbon neutral city by 2050. So the climate action plan is the blueprint we're using for reaching those goals. So there's 2 pieces of it, 2 components, one of which is mitigation, which is actually the task of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions to reach those goals. And the second component is to build a resilient community so that we are better able to face the changes that will occur related to climate change and that we're already facing right now. And the plan will also prioritize the actions, and we'll also look for key partnerships, because a lot of the actions you'll see are perhaps outside of the city's purview, but are things that are important for us to reach the goals. So as Tom mentioned, we have a task force, very large task force with a broad cross-section of the community represented here. You'll see the list. One of the things that we really liked about our consultant, which is Vertis Group, is that they put a lot of emphasis on broad outreach, broad involvement at a very early level through this task force. And so all of these members were invited by the mayor to join. And we're very happy to have such a great group. We've been doing everything virtually, and it seems like it's been working out pretty well. We also have 3 city councilors on the task force, 2 of which are here today, Councilors Anderson, Councilors Gonzalez, and Councilor Nordijk. So with that group, we've been having several meetings and related to meeting the goals. So just as background, where our greenhouse gas emissions come from is primarily related to transportation, electricity, and then what's called stationary combustion, which is natural gas and propane, and then smaller percentages related to wastewater and waste, which is more of methane. So one of the first things we did as a group and with the consultants is to look at Salem's vulnerabilities. And so from their analysis, using a lot of data from the Oregon State University Climate Office, the main things that we are going to be facing are floods, drought, more extreme heat days, wildfires, and then hazardous air quality, often related to those wildfires, and then also extreme winter events. So we're going to face both sides of the coin on the hydrology side. We're going to expect flooding, more severe flooding, possibly in areas that have not flooded before. This, of course, leads to increased risk for property damage, for transportation disruptions, for damage to property, and potentially for landslides. So there's a whole cascading effect of flooding as well as drought. We are going from what used to be a water surplus to a slight deficit. And this year alone, the entire state of Oregon is in one stage of drought or another. And then drought, reduced water surface areas can lead to warmer water, which can lead to potentially to water quality issues. And so that's also of concern for public health as well. So I mentioned the drought across the state. Here's a recent map of the conditions across the state. I mean, one level or another, the whole state is in a drought situation. That increases the likelihood of wildfire. I think right now we have 11 wildfires in Oregon alone. This leads to health impacts. This is a photograph from last year when the wind was blowing our way. But this year we have those huge wildfires in southern Oregon. The smoke seems to be blowing mostly to the east, but it's going as far, as New York City was experiencing haze from the wildfires burning here. People who work outdoors, who don't have air conditioning or air filters, are going to be experiencing this more intensely than others. Same with warming temperatures. We have the average high summer temperature is going to increase. And then an excessive heat day is anything 90 degrees or above. And so we've already had, I think, 24 this year. We've had 24 days that were greater than 90 degrees, and we've had 5 that were greater than 100 degrees. And in that heat dome that happened in June, I think, I'm not sure what the final count is, but there were, hundreds of deaths related to that. The Pacific Northwest is ill-equipped often to deal with intense and prolonged heat. A lot of people don't have air conditioners. And so that's been an issue and a public health risk as well. Another thing that we face in cities is what's called the urban heat island effect. And so that's when heat builds up, it's absorbed by buildings, by roads, by impervious surfaces. It's absorbed and then it's released at night. And so it doesn't cool down. And so that it tends to build up over time in a city. And areas that don't have good tree cover or that are intensely developed without green spaces heat up faster and cool down slower. And so this is a map that Rob put together of where we can expect heat islands, more intense heat to occur across Salem. So for instance, you can see down in this area, down by Minto and Illahee area has really good tree cover. So it stays relatively cool. Here's the airport. Here's an extreme example, no tree cover, lots of reflective and absorbing surfaces. Lancaster also has, roads and industrial areas tend to have hotter temperatures as well. So this is where a lot of people work and live. And so they experience that heat more intensely than other areas of the city. So just to think about it from an economic point of view, there's potential for a wide variety of kind of cascading effects or impacts. We saw in that heat dome that happened, Portland had to shut down some of their streetcars because of buckling rails. There was infrastructure as far as like asphalt melting, things like that are going to become more common, and that can lead to all kinds of transportation issues, supply chain disruptions. I mentioned several of the public health and workforce impacts from some of those climate change effects. There's also potential for people moving either to or from the state, depending on where they live now. As more people, as the electrical grid gets taxed more and more by demand, there's potential capacity issues. Sometimes there's rolling brownouts in places. And so that's a concern. Then, of course, there's also budgetary strains. I mean, we've seen Oregon Department of Forestry, just dealing with all the forest fires has been severely strained in their budgets. Outdoor recreation and tourism is affected. We had to close and stop things because of wildfire smoke last summer. I mentioned the water supply and the water quality, that's a potential issue. And then, of course, there's potential for more insurance costs and claims related to a lot of these. So all of these could potentially impact businesses and our community. So the Climate Action Plan has 7 different categories, action areas that are over here on the left-hand side. And we have 173 currently, 173 strategies related to these different action areas. And so on the right-hand side, you can just see some examples of some of the ideas that are within those areas. A lot of them, because of the greenhouse gas emissions, are related to transportation and land use, as well as energy. But there's also a lot to do with resilience and economic development and economic health. So I would urge you to look at our website. So if you go to, here's the website link up here. And if you go to this project resources tab, this is what it's going to look like. It's a whole list of strategies broken into those 7 action areas with a lot of detail in there. There's the wording. It starts with a vision and kind of guiding principles, goes into the specific wording. And then it also looks at the potential for each of those strategies to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. Some of them are low potential because they might be more about the resilience side of the equation. Some have high potential because they might have an immediate effect. And then we also looked at relative, very rough cost estimate. So a $1 sign, for instance, is 200,000 or less, and then it goes up to $4 signs, which is more than 5 million. So it's a broad range, and it's kind of a really rough cut at just looking at that. And then we also looked at the lead agency. Not all of the time it will be the city. A lot of times it might be a nonprofit, or it might be chariots. It might be another group that would be the lead on that. We also looked at what we call co-benefits. So there's 5 different co-benefits we looked at. For instance, if a action reduces greenhouse gas, but it also helps with public health, or with environmental quality, or community equity, or mobility options, or the local economy, then we tried to capture those co-benefits in that column. And then we also looked at a suggested time frame. So this is a long-range project. It's going to be over many years. I mean, you saw the goals, the first goal is 2035, and then after that 2050. So it's going to take a while to make a lot of these things happen. But we wanted to break it down into short term with a little asterisk means like right away within a year after adoption of this plan. And then an S, short term without an asterisk, is within 1 to 5 years. And then it kind of goes up to that, up beyond that to long term, which could be as long as 20 years to actually implement or fully implement the strategy. So there's a lot of information on the spreadsheet if you're interested in reading it. So where we are now in the process is at this implementation planning and strategy refinement. So we've been doing a lot of outreach over the summer, and we'll continue up until the final adoption of the plan. So we're still open for ideas, for editing, for other suggestions. And so there's still opportunity to give us your feedback. Right now, if you go to the website and click on the Get Involved tab, then there's a spot where you can put your idea, this little light bulb. You can also look at the existing ideas that there and either like them or make a comment on them. And so if you as an individual or as a representative of your group would like to do that, I would urge you to add your ideas and your comments there. So the next steps coming up are council work session on September 20th. And then we're going to be having another task force meeting in late October, and we'll have a draft climate action plan out before that. And we'll be posting that on the website. The next task force meeting on October 27th, we're going to be looking more closely at the implementation and the priorities, trying to establish which ones, if we've identified the short-term actions correctly, and if we have just kind of double checking our assumptions about the timeline and the cost on some of those actions. And then the goal is to have the plan before City Council on December 6th. And then, as Eunice mentioned, with the comprehensive plan, the same with the climate action plan. I mean, once it's adopted, there's a lot of work that needs to get started right away. So it's going to begin in 2022, hopefully, and we'll carry forward from there. And so just to give you a heads up on what's going to happen after Annie and Eric give their presentation is we're going to do a little polling on these 7 strategies. We just picked 7 out of the 173. So we picked 7 out to have the group look at, and you're going to do a poll, and then we're going to break into breakout groups and talk about the results, which will be immediately apparent after everyone votes. And then we'll come back together as a group and kind of go over what the breakout groups discussed. And so the topics are related to home energy score, net zero energy building code, all electric new construction, i.e. no new natural gas hookups. I know that's of interest to people. There's an idea about a philanthropic fund. There's an idea about a new gas tax and energy benchmarking for buildings, and then shading and use of pervious pavement in new parking lots. So just giving you a heads up on what's coming up ahead. But now I'm going to turn it over to Annie.
Hello again. Can you see my screen? Okay. I'm Annie Gorski. I'm the city's economic development manager. There are several climate action plan strategies that reference business incentives, support for new climate smart businesses, and encouraging locally made products, including food. Eric and I wanted to share some examples with you today about existing programs and partnerships to keep in mind as we consider priorities and implementation of the climate action plan. Here are some examples, starting with financial incentives. The city has urban renewal grants in 3 of our areas. We also operated several COVID business grants and technical assistance last year. In terms of existing urban renewal grant programs, energy efficiency and renewables are eligible as part of a larger construction project. Those grants are focused on capital investments, capital improvements. Utility rebates, tax incentives for energy efficiency and renewable energy projects. Northwest Natural, Salem Electric, Energy Trust, and Portland General Electric all have programs. Local property taxes to encourage multifamily housing and job creation. The city has 2 programs that we've adopted locally. These are state programs, including the Enterprise Zone and the Multiple Unit Housing Tax Incentive Program. There are also regional grant programs for worker training programs, as well as COVID business assistance grants. These are run through Willamette Workforce Partnership, as well as the counties within the region. We also have a regional investment fund to support entrepreneurs. The Mid-Valley Angel Fund was formed in 2019. This is local investors investing in local companies to support their growth. We're also underway with evaluating the formation of a new fund that would focus on supporting Latinx entrepreneurs in the region. So Eric, I will turn it to you to talk about partnerships.
Yeah, thanks, Annie. This is Eric Anderson at SEDCOR again. As you go through the different strategies that have been outlined, I think from an economic development perspective, we did recognize that there are some existing programs and partnerships that are already in place that could be leveraged to take on some of this work that's being recommended or under consideration. Things like local, regional food products and food systems, renewable energy, energy efficiency, entrepreneurial opportunities, even the philanthropic fund. I think there's some structures already ongoing that could be useful. First one up here is local and regional business retention expansion program. SEDCOR works with the city of Salem and Marion County and the other counties we operate in to reach out on a regular basis with our partners at the state and Oregon Manufacturing Extension Partnership to talk with businesses. The photo here on this slide is an example of that work. Yamasa Corp International or USA is here in Salem. They produce soy sauce. They came to us on one of our visits and said, we'd really like to try to cut our carbon footprint a bit and find local sources for wheat. And you don't grow the kind of wheat around here that we need. They were trucking in wheat from the Midwest and from Canada, a red wheat. And we were able to leverage some relationships that we had with, in this case, it was the Rudenclaw Farms here in Yamhill County. And they were willing, farmers were scrappy and entrepreneurial, and they said, how can we help? They put in 20 acres of red wheat, and long story short, it hit the protein content and moisture content that Yamasa was looking for, and they contracted for 100 acres. It's going to be in their soy sauce, and we're looking at additional opportunities for future growers to supply more product for them locally. Chemeketa Community College's new ag complex is coming online shortly. It's a beautiful new building that's here to support growers, producers, and entrepreneurs. They're looking even at a farm incubation program for new farm startups. We work very closely with the Small Business Development Center here at Chemeketa. We're they're located here in the CCBI, Chemeketa Center for Business and Industry. But they provide mentoring and small business assistance to businesses up to 500 employees. We mentioned kind of our regional entrepreneurial programs, but one thing we have been lacking is sort of venture funding and opportunities for scalability of businesses from that entrepreneurial stage up into being able to get on store shelves or compete on a national and international basis. Our venture catalyst, Mike White, is on board to work with businesses of all sorts to introduce them into whether it's technical assistance or finance to help them grow their business. And finally, SEDCOR has been working with an initiative called the Northwest Ag Innovation Hub, where we connect our region's growers with technology and also market opportunities. We've been able to develop a much stronger relationship with the Technology Association of Oregon and the Oregon Entrepreneurs Network in doing this work. And some of the opportunities we see are being able to make the connection between growers and buyers. What kind of food or inputs are buyers looking for, processors looking for, institutional buyers. And reversed, what can a farmer, what can a growers actually plan to grow to meet the demand of local processors? So really trying to fortify our food systems here in the Marion County and in the region. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there. Look forward to talking more.
Thank you.
Annie, would this be the proper time to begin engaging with our audience on any Q&A at this point in the meeting, knowing we have breakouts still to come?
Yes, we have a few minutes available now for questions on overall questions on the climate action plan or things that have been mentioned so far.
And I'm not seeing any questions utilized in the chat menu, or else I would just repeat them and then share them with the group. So if you have a question for either Annie, Eunice, or Patricia, Eric, or myself, feel free to take yourself off mute and get that question posed to the group. By the way, we are welcoming, I saw you was able to join. It's great to have you with us, Councillor Anderson. Thank you for jumping on. And then I would also, who else did I see jump on? I noticed past President Chuck Austin has jumped on. And I know Zachary Zalicki has been on from the beginning, and I failed to introduce him. My apologies. He's a big reason we're all sitting here today. So if I forgot anyone else, again, my apologies. But if there are questions for the group, let's get those going right now.
I had one, and I won't be able to stay through the noon hour, so I'll just throw it out briefly. This is great. I mean, this is complex stuff, and I was once chair of the Planning Commission when we revised the zone code, and I know it's a very big job, and I think you're doing it really well. And the climate action is something dear to my heart. But two things that struck me was water is becoming more and more important in our lives and in our futures, and challenged by climate change. And I think one of the master lists at the beginning that were shown were water, and I think in the economic effects area it was called water supply. And I would suggest that water quality and quantity are both keys that you might consider adding those as highlighted parts of the list. Given Salem's challenge with the blue-green algae blooms, which is getting worse throughout the world. Lake Erie has it, Portland downtown has it, and it's a nutrient and temperature issue that I know the city's doing some engineering aspects, but the potential benefits of green infrastructure plantings along tributaries and stuff can bring temperature down, and controlling nutrients from farm and forest is another aspect that can reduce those. And I guess one other aspect of water, I know that Public Works has the double challenge of when you try to reduce usage by conservation, then you reduce revenue from water bills. And with the legislature's huge investment in water and the federal arena as well, there may be ways to address conservation in a way that it doesn't hurt revenue or balances in terms of new approaches. So I think this is great work, and those are just two possible suggestions.
Yeah, thank you, John. Those are great ideas. And we do have some strategies related to buffers along streams and protecting floodplains. and water conservation. But I appreciate the comments. Thank you.
Clean Water Services in Washington County saved $150 million by avoiding an electrically driven refrigeration plant and planting trees along streams, which is a great template.
Yeah, tree planting is a big part of carbon sequestration component. One of the few things we can do right now to shade the city and also sequester carbon. So there were a big push in the city to increase our tree canopy.
Eric Olson posed a question in the chat that I will read out loud. Could you talk about how housing affordability is integrated into this plan, especially when affordability may be at odds with the plan itself?
Is that I'm assuming they're talking about the climate action plan, right? And Eunice, feel free to chime in because I know housing affordability is a serious concern everywhere. Yeah, and so I think that's where we're looking for incentives to maybe offset some of those increased costs so that it doesn't become a burden for developers, or that there's ways that things could be marketed or incentivized to help offset that so it doesn't increase housing costs. Eunice, do you have anything in your plan specifically around that?
Yeah, we have policies around promoting housing affordability. But I think some of the implementation of that is through our zoning code and our changes that we've made even recently in terms of promoting affordability through, again, incentives. And I think Annie had mentioned that there's some tax incentives already around affordability, but Annie, do you want to add to that?
The multi-unit housing tax incentive program, which we refer to as MUTIP, is an existing program that we have currently. That program's boundary is the core area, so a little bit larger than the downtown. The city council will be considering some possible changes to that program later this fall. So I know housing affordability is also a big priority of the city council. So our urban renewal grant programs can also be used for housing and for affordable housing specifically. So we welcome any other ideas you all have, either here now in the chat or as we move into the breakout rooms.
Are there any other questions for our presenters? Okay, seeing none, we are going to advance into our agenda a little ahead of time and now head into the breakout sessions for input on the climate action plan strategies and implementation. Rob, are you running point on this for us, or?
Yes, thank you, Tom. Yes, so real quick, right before I enable the breakout rooms and we all disappear, I'd like you all to, if you would, please take a short poll. I dropped a link to the poll in the chat. And so we'd like you to visit that and just review the 7 strategies that Patricia previously presented and just give us your first cut reaction to them. And this will kind of seed some of the conversation we hope to have in the breakout rooms. So please go ahead and start taking the poll. And while you do that, I'll start setting up the breakout rooms.
Rob, I'm a pretty slow reader and I have gotten through the survey. It looks like you're asking people to enter into their rooms. Folks, you should have a screen that asks you to join. If you have not yet hit that join button, please do so over the next 30 seconds to a minute, and then we will start.
Hey, Rob, this is Kristen. I left our breakout room. We had 4 city staff and 3 others in that breakout room. So I'm just gonna bounce out of the meeting right now, unless you've got another breakout room that needs a city presence.
Sure, I'd be happy to add you to a different room.
Okay, yeah, I don't think we needed 4 of us in that one.